All right, welcome back, Business Freedom Podcast listeners. Today's an interesting call. So, as you all know, I've got a lot of respect for business owners, for folks that do a thing for long enough to get results in the thing. And our guest today, Jim Oliver, with Create Tailwind, has been doing what he does for 30 years. And this is one of only 2 wealth building strategies that I employ personally. So I wanted to have Jim on just to kind of unpack what he's passionate about, how he's using this wealth building strategy in a way that I'm not using it yet. So there's something definitely for me to learn from this conversation. Jim, why don't you start off with just a 60-second intro? Like, who are you? What are you about? Why should we listen to you?
All right, Jim Oliver, owner, founder of Create Tailwind. And what I've done is I've spent 30 years in the financial services business finding out how people really build wealth. And one of the things that we found is that controlling that banking function and being able to have those resources when a great investment comes up is really important. So we have built a team of people and resources to show business owners and affluent individuals how to use this concept to grow wealth outside of the risks and pitfalls of Wall Street.
Awesome. So let's talk about that last comment, because I think that's interesting, and some people may not quite understand the genesis of it. Talk about that. Talk about, like, why would somebody want to take this strategy, versus, throwing their money in Wall Street or doing something else with their money?
So absolutely. When people put money in Wall Street, they normally do it in 2 different channels. One is a qualified plan, right, where the government controls how much money you put in there. They're going to give you a deduction on your taxes now. And then someday you're going to be able to take the money out, and you have no idea what they're going to tax you at. So it's very controlled. The whole time there are fees that are going to erode your performance of Wall Street. You have no insurance. You have no backup plan. If it doesn't work, you're in trouble. And then there's another channel where you've already paid tax on the money. It's extra money, and you put it into Wall Street. Again, you have fees, and again, you have risk. And again, you're not benefiting from the money until some future date way down the road. And it just doesn't make sense, because the market, you're not in control of it. It's like gambling. And if you've ever gone to your financial planner and said, hey, I'm thinking about buying this real estate, or I'm buying this business, they always tell you it's a bad idea, because their job is not to make you money. Their job is to hold on to your money. That's how they get paid.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. So the listeners, the Business Freedom Podcast, we always speak about time and money freedom and the consistency that's required to get there. As a business owner, the business owner personality type wants to, they may be attracted to throwing money into the stock market and watching it go up and down, and the ups and downs, and the what does Tony Robbins call it? The certainty and the uncertainty of it, right? We all have these 6 basic human needs, and the uncertainty of the stock market. And at the same time, that's not unless you're going to leave it in forever, that's not a great way to consistently and predictably build wealth. And I share with you that this is one of the two strategies I've been using. So talk about what do you think will be most useful for any business owner that is looking to build long-term. I'm 45, and I'm probably going to work hard until I'm 55, probably honestly till I'm in my 60s. But what's the plan? Like, what does the plan look like, and what does it really take to pull off? This is kind of like the bank of you, right? So me, if I personally need money, I don't need to go to a bank, because I have hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s built up in this personal bank that costs me very, very little to take out.
Right.
Because it's working while I'm using it. So kind of let's dig into the mechanics of it. I think that might be
Sure.
helpful. I can talk all day about 401ks and rising interest rate, rising, tax rates, and how our country is screwed for the most part. And
Yeah.
I'm super passionate about all that too. So we can maybe end with that because that could take an hour to talk through.
Sure.
Talk about the mechanics and what we're talking about.
All right. So if we think about a business owner, I'm just going to set up the mechanics a little bit for just a second. Is you think about this business cycle and whatever it is, January to December, however you measure your year, there's never a stop, but it's just, a starting and an ending point for your year. Well, there's seasons to that. And as far as our accounts receivables, our sales, whatever it is. So we go out and we have a relationship with the bank to control the cash flow management because our costs, our rent, our employees, all of that is more consistent. It's not as seasonal. So people go to these commercial banks, and then the commercial banks want you to put all of your revenues into the bank so they can use that money, and they are secured, right? They're not going to give you the money unless you have good collateral. They want to look at the company's P&Ls every quarter. I mean, it gets tougher and tougher and tougher, right? So what if there was this alternative bank that you controlled that didn't give you loans and lines of credit, only lines of credit? You decide if you want to amortize those loans. Okay, that sounds pretty good, right? And by the way, for the people out there that would say, well, that bank wouldn't be FDIC insured, right? Well, Lars, there's $88 billion in the FDIC reserve to protect our deposits. The problem is there's $7.2 trillion of deposits. So if you think you have protection, I'm sorry, but you don't. Okay. All right. So the mechanics of it is you have this money pool, and it's a very specifically designed insurance contract. Now, why an insurance contract? It's a tax shelter. Money grows in there, tax-free. If you do it right, you can get tax-free access, meaning when you take distributions, Lars, you mentioned in your 60s or 70s or wherever you'd want the money, if you needed it, you could take it out tax-free, 0% tax bracket. Nice, right? Okay, the second thing is that you have access to this money immediately, meaning that money, you have access to collateralize it. So let's say you had hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting in this money pool, this tax shelter. It's growing uninterrupted every day, right? So uninterrupted compounding is a huge, powerful tool. Interrupting our compounding destroys our returns. So just growing uninterrupted is huge. But then what most insurance agents don't realize is that when I take a loan, it's not my money that's coming to me. It's the insurance company's money. If we have a policy with a mutual insurance company, we actually own part of that insurance company. And that insurance company is required to give us contractually an interest-only loan anytime we want, up to 100% of our cash value. And we don't have to apply for it. You just call them and say, send me my money, right? They send you some of their money while your money grows. Now you put that money into motion. Well, what do you do with it? Well, I could pay payroll. I could pay my taxes. I could invest in real estate. I could expand my business. I could buy equipment. I can do anything that I would do with the commercial bank's money. Now it's my money. If I ran the profits of my business through this system, then I could have that money growing while I used it to expand my business. If that makes sense.
Talk about that, because that part, so I shared before I hit record, and I'll just share it with everybody. The reason I can have someone like this on my show that is, you're very focused on one thing, is because it took me 4 years to study this. And every time I got in deep, because I went like the equity derivatives, like what's the difference between term and whole? Why would I buy a life insurance? Like, it doesn't even make sense. And it took me 4 years for the dust to settle, for the headaches to go away, for me to be 150%. This has to be part of my wealth building strategy. So I guess I just felt like I wanted to say that. But the last thing you just said was something that I learned during these 4 years of headaches studying this. and convincing myself that it was the right move. But I'm not doing that. So talk about what that might look like, because I still have all my cash moving on the side.
Yep.
And it's not my businesses. I own two businesses. None of it's moving through. I basically just send money over on a monthly basis. Maybe that's what you mean, but maybe it's more than that.
So you could run. Okay. So when you set up these insurance policies, there's no free lunch in insurance, Lars. So in the beginning, let's say the first couple of years, every dollar you put in you're not going to be able to take out 100% of those dollars. But around the third year, you're even. And then every year after that, you're leveraging. So let's fast forward to year 5. And this is about the ratio. Let's say I put $100,000 in, I would have about $150,000 that I could use. Now, right now, with your two businesses, if you took all of your revenue and you wrote me a check and I gave you 50% more to go use to run that business, you'd be okay with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So the only reason that you wouldn't run all of your revenues through that banking system rather than the commercial banking system is the first 2 years. That's your investment. That's how do you invest in building this pool. But once we get past that, then you run your profit or your revenue through your insurance policy. Okay, it stays there. You get to use the insurance company's money now to go run your business. And they do charge you interest. So you think, well, why wouldn't I just use cash? Well, cash has lost opportunity cost, right? So what could I have done with that cash? If you give me $100,000 and you buy something from me, that $100,000 will never earn you another dollar. If I put it in my insurance contract, it grows uninterrupted, and I get to go, and it gives me the right to go use the insurance company's money to go buy the things that I want to buy. So either saving me interest or saving me lost opportunity cost.
So talk to me about the other thing you mentioned before we got on. So you get through the investment years, which I agree. I think anyone that is in a position where their business is making them cash, and I agree that it needs to go into this policy even before you do something else with it. So before you go buy real estate. So now I'm in a position where, I could probably go buy 10 homes with the money, no cash of mine,
right.
A very small margin on the money that I take out. So I could probably buy 15 or 16 investment properties. I'm looking at a strategy around the country too, and they'll literally cost me no cash because I've gone this route first. But unpack that for the listeners.
So, okay, say you have money sitting. When you go buy real estate, you could pay cash, right? Just out of your checking account. You could leverage money from the bank, say 80% loan to value. What if you could leverage 100% of it? That wasn't seller financed or 100% carry. Then what you do is you have your money sitting in the insurance contract. You take some of the insurance company's money, use that for the down payment. So now I get the real estate and I still have the insurance contracts, and that money never left. It's growing, right? So let's say my real estate investment cash flows. Well, where's that money going to flow? It's going to flow back into the insurance contract, which and it reduces my lien because they're going to use my money as collateral, put a lien on it, right? While it's growing, it reduces my lien. So that allows me then to go do what? Go buy more real estate, just like you just said, Lars. And the cash flow from those real estate holdings is going to feed my banking system. And that first policy is going to get full pretty fast. Then I'm going to need more policies. And I have 17 policies. My mentor, Nelson Nash, had 49. He just graduated from this world in March of this year at 88. But I'm not building those 17 policies. My assets are. My companies are. And so that's the strategy, is to build cash flow assets, to have this emergency fund sitting in this tax shelter. And God forbid I get hit by a truck. My wife's going to have a hard time looking sad at the funeral because I've got the maximum amount of death benefit anybody will give me.
Yeah, that's what I tell my wife too. I'm like, honey, you're going to be fine if I die.
That's right. Yeah. Try to look sad. Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'll miss you. I'm like, I'm sure you will. And
Yeah.
you're going to have a lot of money. So, all right, that's awesome. So yeah, I'm trying to think of like a typical, I'm all about time and money freedom, and you've got to be owning a real estate team is hard. Owning any small business is hard. We teach the 1% of the 1%. It's someone that has made it to a point where they're probably not qualified necessarily, myself included, when I was doing it, to run the business that we have. It's a $1 to $5 million company. And it takes a lot of work. And I know guys that have been doing it for the last 3 years and they have nothing to show for it. Mm-hmm. So they have no wealth built as a result of the effort. So this is a stop in your tracks kind of podcast where, if nothing else, I hope there's something specifically you take action on, but if nothing else, you've got to stop and just think about what you're doing to build a long-term asset. And it's probably you probably do as good a job of anybody as making it sound super sexy. It's probably the dullest wealth building, most effective wealth building strategy that I know. And,
Yep.
and I think that's why it took me so long to really, really commit to it. And now I'm 100% sure. And now I'm thrilled that it's part of my strategy. And I never look at the stock market, and I have money in the stock market. But yeah, so I guess I just wanted to say, anyone that's listening, it's like, take a minute, take an hour, just get away from everything and think about the effort you're putting to your business. Do you have a vehicle in place to make the effort worth it? So I'm 45. I'm okay working really hard until 55. I know in 10 years, the amount of wealth I'm going to have is going to be ridiculous. All I need to do is just keep doing the thing. And I have a great life and, all that. So anyway, I'm kind of babbling a little bit, but it's, have a conversation. You probably have some kind of vehicle where they can have a conversation with you, like a strategy session type deal. That's the same thing we do with our clients. But this is the reason I wanted to have Jim on is this is just a stop and make sure what you're doing has an end game. I know specifically my end game. So the question is to the listener, do you know what your end game looks like? Are you going to have a couple million in a bank of you 12 years from now that you can sit on the beach, you can buy investment properties, you can flip homes for fun, and you don't have to deal with any 15% lenders. So any thoughts on that? Or do you think there's anything more to talk about, like the options of where? Here's one more thing. So, well, this is more business coaching, but I see a lot of team leaders, a lot of business owners they say, well, I'm just reinvesting back in the business. And I'm like, well, you're just probably stuck at running your business, if it's not profitable. So that's more like, make sure your business is profitable. I still want to better understand the strategy to put more into this policy than maybe I'm doing right now.
Yeah. Lars, I think that when you talk about coaching, and I think it's so cool that you're doing all this coaching and you're helping people, because everybody needs a coach. That's really what we do, is we educate and coach you. And this is different than a lot of the books that you would read on Bank on Yourself or Infinite Banking. They're going to talk about how to finance cars and equipment and things like that, but it's not taking it to the next level. And your audience are next level people. They're already there. Financing a car is not going to keep them up at night, right? And so that's where we've just our specialty is just kind of gravitated to that, because I bought 9 businesses doing this. I bought a ton of real estate doing this. And so I've done it. I can show you I know the mistakes. I know the things that work, the things that don't work. And that's what you're doing with coaching, right? And when you're sitting on the beach and you don't want there to be a potential for failure. Meaning, if I had $10 million in a stock market account, well, I still have to worry about what the stock market's doing every day.
Yeah.
Right? If I have $10 million of real estate that's generating, well, by the way, I could take that 10 million and leverage it to 50 million, right? And doing infinite banking, I could leverage it even more. But if I had all the money coming in from real estate and I had a lot of doors or a lot of businesses and I have insurance on those properties, I have the law of large numbers, meaning if one person moves out, it's not a big deal. But when I have all my eggs in Wall Street, I'm not in control. All I can do is hope. And Lars, hope is not a strategy.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. And it's a different view on it, even for me. You're get through the investment phase of this strategy, and then all your money is there. It's still working.
Yeah.
So it's working twice for you. It's working. You know, what did who said was it Edison or Einstein that said compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world?
Absolutely. Yeah. Einstein.
Yeah, it's you know, when you look at, so I already started whole life policies for my children when they were 4 and 5.
Yep.
And I'm putting $500 a month, which is pretty, it's not a lot of money for me. And I am going to, when they turn 18, I'm going to say, you cannot stop putting 500. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you need to come and borrow it from me. We are not putting $500. And I look at from age 5 to 65 for them.
It's crazy.
60 years. If I can get them to keep that one strategy, they will have $1 gazillion at age 65.
Right.
You know, so yeah, I mean, I get excited about this because it's first of all, it's a no-brainer. It's not complicated.
Nope.
It's not sexy.
Nope.
It is sexy because it's like you don't have to rely on banks. Like, you know, if people could take a little longer term view of life and business, I find a lot of guys are like, I've got to double my business this week. I can't do it over 5 years. It's like, just slow your roll, dude. You're 37. Like,
right.
We've got 20 years to work through this, you know, like, let's just relax. Let's look at this as a 20-year journey. And in 20 years, when you're 57, we could really be in a seriously awesome position. But people talk to that. Do you ever struggle with that people, and I'll sound like an old man, but like in this society, everyone's so like short-term and, you know, instant gratification. Do you have to coach people through that? Like, you got to look at this over 20 years. How do you coach someone through that?
Yeah. I think it's just the mentality the consumer mentality is I want it now, right? The owner mentality is I have to invest in what I'm doing, my strategy, right? Whether it's investing in real estate or whatever it is. And I'm not talking about a long time. I'm talking about 5 years. I can make, a 10-year run. I can build a lot in 10 years. Mm-hmm. And I've got clients that started with no real estate a year ago that has 10 properties and just bought a portfolio for $1.4 million with no money out of pocket. So, I mean, you can make really good progress every year, but it's back to, you mentioned Tony Robbins when we were speaking earlier. Tony says something like this, I'll probably butcher his quote, is people overestimate what they can do in a year and they underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And, think about a 10-year run. You just said that from 45 to 55, that you're going to make this massive move up in your wealth. Well, do you want that to be where failure is or isn't an option? Mm-hmm. To me, that's the unsexy part of it, but it's really the sexy part because failure's not an option. I get both. I get my real estate portfolio and I get this money protected in this tax shelter. They're both growing. Yeah. I don't have to choose and say, I'm going to take this money out of my account and go invest it in this real estate and hope that I didn't make a mistake. No, I get both.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just went to the website, createtailwind.com, and I love, awesome website, by the way. And
thank you.
The image, well, y'all should go there as you're listening to this, but the image on the website, the first image is a mountain.
Yeah.
Right? And to me, so just as a consumer, I think of two things. I think a lot of people, like they want the top but they don't see the mountain.
Right.
And so that's the first thing I thought of. And that was a Simon Sinek critique on millennials. So that was not an original thought. But then I also thought, I've been watching a lot of these. Have you seen like the climbing movies, like Free
Solo? Yeah.
Free Solo and
Yeah.
the Dawn Wall. And that's the second thought I had, is that it took the guy that did Free Solo, it was like 8 or 9 years.
Right.
And the guy before him that did a path on El Capitan that had never been done before, it took him 8 years where he would just go down and study it. And he's studying, like, this is a freaking 3,000 foot climb.
Right.
With probably thousands of maneuvers. And he is studying, like, so I guess the other thought I had was like, it's one step at a time.
Yeah.
And this picture, the steepest part, my third thought is that the first 80% looks doable.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of compound interest, the last 20% goes right up.
Yeah.
And you maybe not have thought through this with this picture of a mountain.
I wish I would have thought all those things, but I love that.
To me, it's straight up at the end. So
yeah.
you commit to a strategy like this today, even at age 45, I've got 30 years. If I can stay healthy into my 70s, I'm still going to have income producing assets into my 70s. So I can still invest in this strategy. 30 years of this it's game over. If you're younger than 45, even if you're 55, I've got a mentor of mine who's 11 years older than I am, and 90% of his net worth has been generated in the last 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
Doing something similar, very similar strategy as well. And now he's taking the assets and rolling it into, he owns, I think, 22 properties now around the country that are all the 1% rule. They're all $100,000 properties that he's renting for $1,000. So really cool stuff. I'm talking too much, but I think this is just on point with, it's it's 100% guaranteed strategy if you can be patient and you can see the end game and commit to it. So any final thoughts for, I think I would just go to createtailwind.com. Is that the best way to get it?
Yeah, go to createtailwind.com. There's some great videos on there. There's articles. We don't close. I mean, like, if somebody wants to hear about this is not a close. It's not a click funnel. It's nothing like that. You go on there, you get, and if you request a 15-minute meeting or an hour overview, that's what you get, because this is a participatory sport. What we're going to do is we're going to show you some stuff. We're going to send you some stuff to read. We're going to send you videos or whatever. And then at some point in time, you either say, hey, this is for me or it's not for me. That's our business model. And that's what I love is I don't have to do this, but I'm passionate about it. And I'm passionate about building other businesses and having that collaboration with other people, because I find my clients bring me other real estate deals or business deals, and that's how I've built those portfolios. And I'm a good partner, right? Because I know how to do it. I've done it. And so I think that's the key is it's a participatory sport, just like that climbing is a participatory sport. And the other thing is, think about this, Lars, when you've been doing this 30 years and you said 75, how old are your children going to be? And your children might never have to walk into a commercial bank and beg for money, right? And every business owner out there, if things ever have gone bad in your business and you needed money, then you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and you can even charge them the 1%. Like, it may cost you 1% to have the money out. You can just charge them 1%, but at least they don't have to go get it for interest rates, maybe 20%. 20 years from now.
Right, and think about this: when your kids are going off to college and they need some money, let them borrow it from their insurance policies, but they have to pay it back. Mm-hmm. And now remember, their money isn't going to go anywhere; it's still going to be growing. They'll pay it back. They'll be whole. They won't be part of the student loan crisis where they've used the bank's money and it just continues to add up interest and grow and grow and grow. They'll be out of that rat race. They'll break away from that herd, and they'll be in a totally different category.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I would definitely suggest going to createtailwind.com, even just the resources on there. This is probably like everything that took me 4 years to figure out on my own is probably just available without even talking to a human being on the website. So I would definitely start there. I believe in the strategy, and I appreciate your time. This has been super, super helpful and fun.
Thanks for having me on, Lars. It's been great to talk to you. I love talking to successful people like you, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
All right.